Hello, and welcome to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast, where we explore the entrepreneur mindset, the characteristics and traits that lead to success. I'm your host, Janet Fish, and in this episode, we talk about taking risks with Kathy Mennel. After over 20 years serving in the healthcare insurance industry, guiding people through the muddy waters of Medicare and Medicaid insurance, working for someone else, Kathy started her own company, Mennel Insurance Solutions. Kathy's passion is educating seniors, helping them make the most informed choices regarding one of the most important decisions they have to make. Kathy is focused on giving back as she differentiates herself with her many years of experience. Kathy and I discuss how she made her decision to break out on her own and how facing risks straight on makes her the successful entrepreneur that she is. I hope you enjoy our chat. So Kathy Mennel, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great, Janet. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is going to be awesome. So let's just start out by you telling us just a little bit about you, the businesswoman, a little bit about your not your personality, but your personal life. Let us get to know you a little bit better.
Well, let's see. I'm a mom and a grandma now. I have two sons that are, of course, out of the house and in their early 30s. And then I have three step kids, two boys and one girl, and they're all out of the house. And so we have, my husband and I have five together and five children. And I've been working since I was 14. And I've been in the healthcare industry, the insurance part of it, for over 25 years. And then in the last 10, I really got involved in the Medicare arena and just became really passionate about it. And so I, started my own business about a year and a half ago. So I was a single mom for a long time. I got divorced when my children were really young, my two boys, and was putting myself back through college. I did not have a college degree. So here I was, a single mom going to school and then working part-time. And my whole goal was to make sure I was able to get a job that I could support them. And so that was my driving force, was to take care of them, to give them more than, that I had. And then lo and behold, 6 years ago, I met a man and got remarried, and I thought that would never happen. So now we're in Sacramento area, and I grew up kind of South Bay, but have been in the greater Sacramento area since the late 80s and really love it here. So that's kind of where I am now.
Awesome. So talk about your journey because I know you've held jobs for a long time, and then just a year and a half ago, talk about the journey of how you decided to start your own business and what that's been like.
Yes, so I did have a lot of different roles, and they were all really different, and they all gave me something, a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience in the health insurance industry. And then when we moved back to Sacramento, I stopped working for a very large insurance carrier and decided that I really wanted to have a job that I liked. Now that I was married, I wasn't the only breadwinner in the house. So it gave me a lot more opportunity. Unfortunately, the positions that I received were ones that took me, traveling across the country. And after a while, that just gets a little tiring. So with my husband and I both had pretty stressful jobs, and it was apparent that something had to change. So I'd always wanted to own my own business. And so we had, a lot of discussions about it, because you're giving up a really big salary and changing your lifestyle to do something that's quite risky. And but once again, with having that security, I was able to finally leave and decide that, I just didn't want to work 12 hours a day anymore. And all the weekends, I wanted to enjoy my family. And so starting my own business gave me that flexibility. Although, you work very, very hard to have your own business, I knew that it would be better if I could control my own destiny.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that decision. So how did you decide? So let me figure out how a way I can say this that actually makes some sense. How did you decide which business to start? You knew what industry it was going to be in, but how did you decide what you would actually sell, or what business what part of that, because it's a vast industry? Was it a simple decision? Was it an obvious one? How did you come to the decision of this is exactly what my business is going to do, given your background?
It was kind of a stop and go experiment, sort of. I knew I wanted to be in Medicare because I loved it. It's really complex. The whole Medicare arena is just so complex and confusing that it made me feel really good to be able to understand that the whole Medicare world. And so I knew I wanted to be in Medicare, but I really wanted to stay focused on the education part. I really loved when I was in one position, I would give educational seminars all the time, and I really liked it. I liked presenting in front of people, and it gave me a sense of accomplishment that I could help them try to understand a really complex subject. And so I knew I wanted to do that part of it. Unfortunately, in the Medicare world, to make any money, there's so many regulations that I couldn't just go out and do educational events, because you cannot, you're regulated, cannot charge a Medicare beneficiary any money to come and see you. So the only way that you can, make money is through a commission of enrolling them into a different, into a policy. So that's how it kind of morphed from doing more just really education and consulting into having to be incorporating that sales within it. So I've meshed the two together, and a lot of my clients come from an educational event or a sales event, depending on the time of year. And so I'm able to get that part of it and then still, have some kind of revenue.
Yeah, I would suspect that, when I look at how to sell, or the marketing funnel, or the process, so much of it relies on, for people who are good at what they do, on the educational piece. Provide people great education, and then they want to work with you in whatever the paid part of it is. And you obviously have a great love for that, and obviously have a great history of that, which I'm sure completely sets you apart from so many others who are just out there brokering these plans to whoever is turning 65 and now has to make a decision on which way they're going to go. So I'm sure that totally differentiates you from so many others out there doing the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really true. And it's really frustrating to see that happening. So I'll meet people that were giving wrong advice from someone that was just trying to make a sale, or even people that were just unknowledgeable. And it's so frustrating to see, because it can be detrimental to that Medicare beneficiary, to that senior. It could affect them financially. It can affect them in of course, their health insurance is super important to them. And it's also a very big part of their retirement portfolio and what they're going to be doing. So it is really frustrating. And then on the other side of the coin, sometimes I meet people that don't want to know too much. They just want you to tell them, I trust you, just tell me what to do, and so, you meet those people too, and that's fine, but at least I know that I'm giving them the right guidance.
Yeah, well, and it's got to be gratifying when you see those people who have been perhaps led down the wrong path, or the path that may not be perfect for them, and there's a better way. It's got to be gratifying. A lot of what I do is all about helping people, and that's a lot about what you do. And to me, I'm assuming that's the gratifying piece of what you get to do every day.
It is. It really makes you feel good, and it really gives me a sense of accomplishment and to be able to help somebody.
Yeah. So tell me, what's your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
I think it is giving back, because I'm certainly not, it's not about making the money so much, or making money. Certainly, you want to have enough to be a viable business, but really it's giving back and being able to share the knowledge and experience that I have. When people go into this, they're like, well, why does this happen? They have a lot of questions that are why? And so I like being able to share the history, the experience that I have that can really kind of get a little bit deeper if they want to. So just giving back, I think, is what I really love about it. And seeing somebody say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I met you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And you just get that. So that in itself is priceless. So I love that.
So then I'll ask the opposite. What's your least favorite thing about being an entrepreneur? Or you can answer it, what's the most shocking or thing that you didn't expect about being an entrepreneur? Because I don't necessarily want to go, if you don't want to go in the least favorite negative, go in the what surprised you the most.
I think it didn't surprise me, but some of it did, where the accounting, I'm a business grad, so I know what that's all about, but the accounting part of it is just so overwhelming to me. And the way that this Medicare space works, it's not like even just any other kind of insurance. It's very, very different. There's so many different components to it that I didn't realize that it was going to be so varied and that it was going to be really overwhelming. So that's the part that I struggle with. And it's like, I'm sure you've heard of that book, Eating the Frog, and having to do that one thing you really have to get done, or maybe you don't want to get done, and doing that first. It's something that I try to focus on. I'm not great about it, but it's still in my mind that that's what I need to do. So the managing, the administration of doing the business, and also trying to combat with other powers that be that are in the same industry is something that I'm not really fond of. There's just everybody and their brother trying to jump into this industry because so many people are turning 65, the baby boomer generation. And so it's very, very, very competitive. So I'm not, I am competitive, but I want to just be able to share what I'm doing and not have to fight so hard.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, I know, because I also, when I started, struggled with the accounting and administrative, and I didn't have the intricacies that you have of the Medicare system and all those kind of things, but just know it does get easier because you figure it out, and then you just kind of keep doing the same things over and over again. And then the really happy day is when you get to hire somebody else to do it for you. So you just tell them how to do it the way you want it done, and then you just lead it and you don't have to do it anymore. So those days are ahead if that's the direction you want to go. So just know that it's not always going to be like that.
Right. Absolutely. I want to do that.
So what's the best advice you have for someone who is thinking about starting their business? Especially coming from your background of being an employee for a long time and then saying, okay, now with all this knowledge that I have gained and all of the things that I love to do, now I'm going to break out on my own. What's your best advice for someone thinking about doing the same thing?
I think that I wish I would have had a mentor. I wish I would have gone to somebody that was doing what I'm doing and talked to them and gotten some type of guidance or what have you. I did so much research and I had so much experience and background. I thought that, I researched, I talked to people, and bounced things off of them, but I never found anyone until later that could guide me on how it really works with your own business. And so that would be my number one recommendation. Do research, then do more than you think you need, and find a mentor to help you through that has done the same thing.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, because what I have found probably the most beneficial thing, along with hiring a coach or a mentor, is being active in a entrepreneurial community. So when I took my straddle, it was 2005, and I'd been in corporate America forever when I decided to start out on my own, and I was involved with a entrepreneurial organization, and most of it at that time, this was 2005, as I said, was focused on investing and real estate, but it was also a heavy focus on how to structure your business, how to incorporate, how to take advantage of tax advantages that you get for being an entrepreneur, an S corp, and I was in a community of those people. And so my advice would be, one, hire somebody to help you, but two, even if you don't do that, get involved with a community of entrepreneurs who some are struggling with you to figure it out at the same time you are. So you get that camaraderie, like, Kathy, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, I don't know what I'm doing either. Let's figure it out together. And then you also have a community of people who have done what you've done and are at that next level and can really help you. So that would be kind of my advice is, and I still am in that, right? I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years, and I'm still in communities of entrepreneurs, and I still rely on them for help and guidance, because there's a lot of people who are doing better than, or are at that next level from where I am. So that's my piece of advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's really...
So I always talk about, because this podcast is about the characteristics and traits that make us different. We've both been corporate people, and now we're entrepreneurs. What do you think the traits are that differentiate entrepreneurs from people who have regular jobs?
I think that risk, the ability to take risk, is one. Also, when I've been in my different corporate worlds, I always wanted more. I never, you could be in a corporate environment, maybe your team or your department, there's a lot of complaining going on. And I noticed over the years that I was the one that always did something, took action of some kind, where everyone else just kind of, bitched about it, to be quite honest, and then just didn't do anything, where I'm like, okay, well, this isn't working for me, so I'm going to make a change. Sometimes it always wasn't the right decision, but I took action. So I think that's one really big thing. Really motivated to be successful. Really, that's important to me. And, the sense of achievement. But I think that just the driving force of being able to step out of the box and take risk sets me apart from, say, somebody else that was an executive or a manager or something like that in the corporate world.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. It's doing that. And I always say being an entrepreneur is hard, and anybody who tells you it's not is lying. Right? Because I always say that we all know people who say, yeah, I started a company and I made $10 million, and you're like, something happened in there. It didn't always go well, right? So,
no.
So I'm sure you've had challenges, and will continue to, as we all have and will continue to. What do you do when you're facing those challenges? Have there been any in particular challenges? What have you learned from them? It's kind of an open-ended question, because I don't want to be really specific. I want it to come from you. But talk about how you face the challenges and how you get through them, or a specific instance. Up to you.
I think there's a lot of different challenges. We talked about the administration part of it, but there's also kind of, if you think of the emotional side of it. So, when you get a little bit older, you're just treated a little bit different. And so I find that, there's some people in my family, in my expanded family, that are very supportive. But then there's others that aren't, and it's kind of dismissed. I feel sometimes like I don't have the big title behind my name anymore, and that, I just feel like I would really like to have more support from that. Like my husband's very supportive,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't understand that whole business world. He did, blue collar work, and he's certainly in a much different job now, but that entrepreneurial spirit, that taking risks, that doing without getting, maybe the results that you want, but staying with it, that, tenacity that you have to have. I don't think a lot of people understand unless you're actually doing it. So that's been challenging to me, that whole kind of family or emotional side of it. So the way that I kind of get through that is I have some, people that are in the same profession that I am, that I've established really good relationships with, and I call them. Or, I go to my business networking group and ask people there, that are also entrepreneurs, and, have they experienced this, or what are they doing? How are they doing this? And how did they get through this? And so that's been super helpful, is just reaching out, and the ability to reach out to people that you trust, that, that just lift you up. And sometimes, we all need that. And I certainly try to give that back to them too, when they're trying. I mean, I'm sure you went through it too, where there's been times where I'm just like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Is this right for me? Is the time that I'm putting into this, am I just, why, I really want to give back, but I also need to be able to be a viable business. And so that's been, a challenge for me, and I just keep doing it. And when that happens, that we talked about earlier, when somebody says to me, oh my gosh, thank you so much, or that gratitude, or I solved somebody's major problem, it doesn't matter. Then I'm like, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed that when I first left my corporate job, my family are all non-entrepreneurs. They're all W-2, and they didn't get it at all. And I found it curious that there are a couple of, and I'll generalize here, but there's a couple of types of people. So there's the one person who, I won't name names. I actually named it in another podcast, and then I cut it out, because not that he would ever listen, but I just did it. But was that, you can't do that. You can't go start a company. And I went from working selling software to a land development deal in Mexico. So, I mean, I kind of took a big jump, but I had mentors and people and partners helping me. But they were like, you can't do that. And I realized after a while that was a reflection on that person's, where they were at in their thought, because they would never even conceive of taking the risk and the leap and all of the things that you've been talking about, Kathy, that you have to do to go and start your own company. There's no check that comes in every week, whether you work or not. And I realized that, because I was very hurt by it, that it was a reflection of where he was and his fear of doing something different. And I honored that, and I got that. Then we have the other person, and I'll name this one because it's my sister, who I remember she used to say, you're going to go do that such and such a thing. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And I was working for an organization as a coach, and I would go all over the country and the world, actually, and do events for them and coach for them and teach. And she's like, you're going to go off and do that again. And she never really, 6, 7 years into it, she's like, what is it that you do? And I'm like, I'm a business coach. Like, I teach people how to build their business, how to make more money, how to deploy marketing, how to analyze what's going on. Like, it's not that rocket science, but regardless of what she understood of what I did, she's my biggest fan. To this day, she's my biggest fan. So and there's a whole bunch of people within that spectrum. But I share that because if you don't have exactly what you're talking about, if you don't have someone that you can call and say, hey, someone's raining on my parade, and it's a day where someone just said no to me and I thought I had that deal, and someone said no, or someone shut you down and you're starting to question, because we all have that. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years, and now I'm trying to do something a little bit different, and there are days where I'm like, maybe nobody wants that, or So I think it's important to have those people that you can lean on and call upon Because if you don't have that, then you stay in your head and you don't get out the next day. And you don't get out the next day. And then you don't get out the next day. And that's what it's all about. It's all about keeping at it. There's a woman named Sharon Lecter. I love her. She's in the Napoleon Hill Foundation. I think she runs it. Think and Go Rich is their book. But she wrote a book called 3 Feet from Gold, I think it was. And it was about how we work and we work and we work and we work, and then we quit when we're just 3 feet from finding that gold. I get chills because it's such a good book. She's amazing. Anyway, so I totally agree with you, and I'm glad that you found that. And I'll also say, if you're ever in that spot and you want to just pick up the phone and call me, I'd love to be that person for you if that's something.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I need as many as I can get.
Well, I think we all do.
Yeah,
I think we all do. And I will say that during this time of COVID-19, we'll get through this, but I think it's been particularly poignant for people to be able to reach out to other people as we're sitting in our houses trying to do things, differently than we've ever done, and we can't necessarily go out and do the normal marketing types of activities we've done. How do we do things differently? And if we don't stick in this together, then I think that's a missed opportunity. So.
Right, absolutely.
All right, so what do you love to do? Like one of my favorite things about being an entrepreneur is it gives me freedom to do not anything I want, anytime I want, but I have all freedom of choice. What do you like? And you said you quit that other job because you don't want to work 12 hours a day. So what do you do for fun? Or what do you do for balance?
Yeah, I really, I love to cook. So I really get into like cooking shows and cooking and entertaining. I like to do, like Sunday night dinners with the kids and as much as possible. And I like working on decorating my house, which I'm not really creative, so it's so challenging. And then I love, walking my dog or Pilates. I love Pilates. It's a great tool for me. It kind of like is a meditative exercise. So I like doing that, being with friends and family. My husband and I started traveling a little bit. So he's introducing me to places I've never been before, like we're going to Yellowstone. So, just being with family and friends and getting out there is what I really, really like to do. I have a really black thumb, so I can't garden. But and then I'm a wine enthusiast for sure. So I love to go wine tasting and that whole scene. So
awesome. Do you have a favorite quote and why?
I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is what other people think of me is not my business. It's none of my business.
That's awesome. So do you want to share a little bit more about that?
My stepmom taught me that a while ago. And so anytime that I'm thinking, like we talked about before, that, how come that person in my family isn't even asking about me? So I ask all the questions about them and their job and how they're doing, but nobody says, hey, Kathy, how's it going with your business? And I think, even if they don't agree with what I'm doing, what they think about me is really none of my business. And I have to maintain my own drive and my own confidence level to get past that.
Yeah, I really believe that I'm at that spot. Not that sometimes it doesn't hurt, but I'm at that spot where, if you don't, whatever you think about me, doesn't matter. I agree with that. And I'll say that I've come to that a lot through realizing that people don't really think that much about other people, right? Because there's so much thinking about themselves. And then we've all had things happen in our lives where, like, where did that come from and why did that person do that? And whether it's business or personal. And I always go back to, that's their shit. I mean, that's their stuff, right? And that has nothing to do with me. So whether it's the guy who cut you off on the freeway, or your best friend said something really hurtful, or your husband didn't do whatever. It's about what's going on with them, and 99% of the time it has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on with you. That's a great quote. I really like that. All right, my final question is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Wow. In the business perspective, I would like it to be that, once again, that I've given back and then I've helped people feel confident and comfortable as they enter their retirement about their health insurance, and that I am an open door to them. I just don't help them through the initial process, that I'm always there for them year round, for them to call no matter what. And then, so I'm hoping that I'm seen as, kind of like a specialist, an expert in the Medicare field. I would love that to be my legacy. And then also as a good person and a good mom and grandma.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're all of those things for sure. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning. This has been awesome. It's been great to get to know you a little bit better. That's one of my favorite things about doing this podcast, is I always learn something new about somebody. I interviewed a guy who I've known for 20 plus years, and I learned something about him. So whether I've known you for 2 years or a year, however long I've known you, or I've known him forever, there's always something new to learn about them. And I'm so happy and thankful that you've shared your thoughts with us today.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I just appreciate your openness and camaraderie, and it really means a lot. So thank you.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
Okay. You too.
All right. Thank you for listening to The Breakaway Entrepreneur with Janet Fish. If you liked our show and want more, check us out at www.breakawayentrepreneur.com. If you have any questions, please email me at coach@breakawaybusinesscoaching.com. I'll answer your questions in an upcoming podcast. If you're enjoying our podcast, please share it with your friends and colleagues. I hope you'll join us next week.